Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. So, actually, it's Monday. You guys are probably going to be watching this Tuesday. I'm filming it Monday, but for you guys, it's Tuesday. So, how about 10:06? Not 10. I just talked to you on Zoom. Anyway, it is Monday, but this is Tuesday's lesson, so I like to get it done early. So, let's talk about factoring again. Factoring by grouping. So, factoring by grouping. So, if you see factoring by grouping, and this is our last type of factoring. Okay, when you get to Algebra 2, we'll do even more, but for us, it's our last type of factoring. So when you see four terms, you see four terms, we will pair them up. Well, that's not a very mathematical word, but they say grouping, okay? So that's the same kind of concept. So when I take a look at the first example, if I see 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, what I'm going to do is put these two together and these two together, okay? So I'm pairing them up. So first of all, let's ignore the third and fourth term. Let's just look at the first two. So it is a process of common factoring. Four terms, pair them up. These two, these two. Let's look at the first two, the first pair, and ask ourselves, what do they have in common? Well, they have a common multiple of 3, and they have an x squared in common. So I'm going to common factor out of 3x squared out of the first two. We're ignoring the second two for right now. So let's just take out the 3x squared out of the first two. So if I do that, what's left is just an x, because I took out a 3x squared. And 3 goes into 12 4 times. I took out the x. Let's look at the second pair now. It's by grouping. So the second group, the second pair, I look at these two and ask myself, what do they have in common? Well, they have a common multiple of 4. So I'm going to common factor out a positive 4. And if I take out a positive 2, gosh almighty, mistake number 1. They have a common multiple of 2. I'm ahead of myself because then I'm going to get a 4 there, but I'm going to have an x minus 4. So common factor out of 2. Out of both, because they both have a multiple of 2, and I'd be left with an x minus 4. Okay, then I ask myself, okay, if I look at my groups again, so it's a second, we've got to factor again. So we have to factor again. And ask ourselves, what do these two groups have in common? Well, they both have a parentheses x minus 4 in common. So this is where it gets a little tricky, but not too bad, because you're going to pull out the x minus 4 and count it once. So one of the things I like to do is cross it out, okay? So I took out the x minus 4, there it is, and what's left over? That's what they have in common, pulled it out, cross out what's left over, is the 3x squared plus 2. And that's it. That's called factoring by grouping. 4 terms, okay? Let's look at example number 2. Okay, in example number 2, what do I see? Well, 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So I'm going to put them together, pair them up, okay, by groups. Let's look at the first 2 terms. They have a common multiple of 2, and they have an a. So I'm going to common factor out the 2 and the a out of the first pair. And then what do they have left? Well, if I take out a 2a, I'd have a a. If I take a 2 out of 8, I get a 4b. Now let's look at the second pair. And what they have in common is a negative. They both have a negative. I want to take out that negative. Definitely want to take that negative out. And then what they have also in common is a common multiple of 3. So if I common factor out the negative 3, I'll have a positive a plus a 4b. Take out a negative 3, negative into a negative 12 makes a positive 4 in the b. Okay, then factor again. Okay, we factor again. So what do these two groups have in common? They have an a plus 4b. So if I pull out an a plus 4b, and I pull it out for both, so let's cross it out because it's out. And what's left over is a 2a minus 3. Okay. All right, now example 2. Sometimes I like to rewrite before I factor, okay? So I might put the 2x cubed and the positive 3x squared together. And then I'd put the negative 18x and the negative 27 together. So you can rewrite. You can regroup them and put them with the ones that makes more sense, the ones that have more things in common. So I think these two have more in common because you've got the x squareds, and these two have the multiple of 9. So let's group them up. Okay, first pair, second pair. So if I look at the first pair and ask myself, what do they have in common? They've got an x squared in common. They both have at least an x squared in common. If I take out that x squared, out of the first term I'd have a 2x, and out of the second term I'd have a plus 3. The second pair, what do they have in common? Well, they have a negative. Let's say they have a subtraction column. Let's take out their negative, and they also have a multiple of 9. So if I take that out, I'd have a x minus 3. Well, in this case, I don't have anything else in common, so I'd have to just stop. Interesting. I'm going to have to check that one out. Oh, hold on. Here's my mistake. 2 and plus. I did make a mistake. That's number 2. I hate it when I make mistakes. Okay, so go backwards. There's a negative 18x, and that's a negative 27. So they do have something in common, and that is the 2x plus 3. Come on, Mr. Davies, you can do this. And then I have an x squared minus 9. But this one can be factored again, because we learned yesterday in Zoom that you can factor that again into a x plus 3, x minus 3, and I'd still have my 2x plus 3 in front. That one's a little bit harder, especially when I make a mistake, so forgive me for making a mistake, okay? All right, number 4. I'll give you a second to write that down. That was a hard one. Number 4, I'm going to bring everything over to the other side. Has to equal 0. Must, with an equal sign, it must equal 0. All right, 4x cubed. Let's do this. Let's bring over the 7x squared. So I have to subtract it, minus the 7x squared. Let's bring over the 16x, so subtract it, and then plus 28. Now, I'm going to group them up, put these two together and these two together, right? Okay, let's see what I have. So these two have a common x squared in common, and I'd be left with a 4x minus 7. These two, we're going to take out a negative. We're going to take out a negative 4, because that's all they have is a multiple of 4. And we'd be left with a 4x. Let's see, 4 goes to 28 7 times. Minus 7, though, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay. Now I'm going to factor again. What do these two groups have in common? A 4x minus 7. So I'm going to write that again. Common factor of the 4x minus 7. I like to cross it out because I've done it, and what's left over is the x squared minus 4. Okay, now I'm going to factor x squared minus 4 one more time, because that's what we did yesterday, x plus 2x minus 2. So then I get a 4x minus 7, but I'm going to factor this one again into an x plus 2, x minus 2. All right. I've got my mini equations. I do. I've got mini equations. Slide this paper like this. One mini equation is going to be 4x minus 7 equals 0. My other mini equation is x plus 2 equals 0. And my third mini equation is x minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to get 3 answers. I really am. And 3 answers actually makes a lot of sense to me because of the x cubed. So I am going to get 3 answers. Well, let's see how I get 3 answers out of this. Well, okay, plus 7, right? 4x equals 7. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. One answer is just 7/4, or 1 3/4, or 1.75. Minus 2 minus 2. There's the second answer. Plus 2 plus 2. There's the third answer. Okay, and that's all I got for that one. Okay, let's see what I have on the back page. Okay. Okay, common factor. Okay. These are kind of a review of what we did as far as hard factoring, but we'll do it real quickly. Okay, I see a common multiple of 2x have an x squared minus 1. So these are all going to be double factoring, okay? I can factor this again. I can. X plus 1, x minus 1. Because that'll factor into x plus 1, x minus 1. Double factoring, so we're going to factor twice. All of these are going to be double factoring. Let's find out why. Okay, look at example 6. They all have a common multiple of 6, and they all have a common x. Okay, these are harder, but we can do them. So if a common factor out of 6x, I'd have an x squared minus a 4x plus a 4. Okay, double factor. We can factor this again. Because I can use a 2 and a 2, but how about a negative 2, negative 2? So my 6x is part of the answer. Don't forget your 6x. And here I'd have an x, and I'm going to go minus 2, because they'll make a positive 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, and negative 2 plus negative 2 is a negative 4x. Okay, there it is. Okay, number 7. Last but not least, let's common factor. What I see is a 2x to the third in common. Okay? So they all have at least a multiple of 2, and they all have at least 3 x's in common. So if I do that, I'd have an x squared plus a 1x minus 72. All right, let's see if we remember. What times what makes 72? What times what makes 72? How about 8 and 9? How about 8 and 9? Yeah, because that'll make a 1. 8 and 9, I can get a 1 out of that. I can go x plus 9, x minus 8. I can do 8 and 9. Positive 9, negative 8 will make the positive 1. And then I've got many equations. I do, because I'm solving. Remember, I'm solving. So I need to get some answers. I've got 2x cubed equals 0. Get x plus 9 equals 0. X minus 8 equals 0. Now this one looks hard, but it's not really that hard. Because if we divide by 2, we get x cubed equals 0. And it's got to be 0, because 0 times 0 times 0 makes 0, right? It's got to be 0. So one answer is 0, okay? Minus 9, plus 8, and there they are. Okay, give this lesson a try. I'll have the assignment up in Canvas.